So, Rick, do you want to start with?
Do you want to go over the roles descriptions and then I could go over the diagram? Does that sound good?
Oh, that sounds good. So let me open the roles definition. So what we have done, because it's a big project, and we have defined the different roles, and let me share my screen. That makes probably sense. Or I sent you all also, is it openly available already, the roles? I'll share my screen for a moment.
I do have a link to a roles definition document in the agenda. I believe it's the same one, but I don't know if the document itself had been made open. I haven't added.
Could you post the agenda in the chat, please? Because I don't think it got attached to my invitation.
Yeah, let me get. It's buried inside of the Zoom meeting request, so it can be hard to find sometimes. Let me. How do I make this small so I can go do it? There we go.
Yeah. So, since we have all the different partners and the different PIs also at ND and different people involved at ND, so you get always a lot of emails from Miranda because she's our project manager. And so I can go for a moment through the roles. And so if you find yourself there, then you should find yourself there, but you can give also feedback if something is missing. So one is John Wang, is the leading PI, the project director for PresQT. So he leads the grant effort and the coordination between partners, including research, technical work, budget, compliance reporting, and communication activities in the broader community. And he's supported by every one of us. So he doesn't, that is not the duty, he doesn't have to do that all himself. But that is his, he's the lead on it. And did I overlook a comment or something?
I just threw in the chat, I threw a link to the agenda. Sorry.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I asked, for that.
I wanted to say, you asked for that, but I only didn't want to miss a question or something.
Yeah, nope, you're good. That was just me.
Okay, that's good. And then Natalie is also a PI, and she's a product owner. And she also collaborates with the technical lead, which is me, and performs outreach on use case tests with scientists, expert consultants, ReproSIP, for example, and emerging pair best practice groups in the library and research data management communities. So she's one of the co-leader on the community engagement. So I won't read everything here, only that you get an impression. So I'm the lead on the technical lead, and I lead the design and implementation. And I own the architectural and technical decisions. That doesn't mean that there cannot be other suggestions or discussions, but someone has to make decisions. So this will be me for the project. Rick is also a product owner and a work effort leader, and he supports me with the tool design, and he builds in the knowledge of the library, and together with Natalie, we get the user stories for the technical feature implementations. Miranda is the lead project manager at ND, and she ensures that we get all, we stay in the timeline and that everything is communicated. So Marcus is the CSC team leader, so of the development team at the Center for Research Computing at ND, and he assigns tasks and coordinates the efforts with the user stories and everything at the CSC. And Caleb is part of the CSC also, and he reports the monthly effort of the CSC developers, because we have to have a look at our different cost partners also, latest from July. Then the booking gets a little bit more complicated with all the sub-partners. So on the CSC side, Caleb does the reporting. We have a lead budget administrator or two at ND. This is Matthew Simpson and Shannon Buchmann. So Nathan, for example, if you start to book hours latest from July, and create invoices. So if there's something not clear, that would be someone you would contact. You could, of course, first contact Miranda or one of us, but this would be for the whole coordination of the financial things between the partners. That would be the contact. Donald Brower is one of the senior web developers at the Hasberg Libraries at D, and he's a senior web developer and supports the quality assurance effort. And he collaborates closely with me and with other development efforts feeding into PresQT. So we had also a quality assurance specialist at the libraries at ND, but he left. So we still need a name for the quality assurance specialist again. And we have a couple of web developers and senior developers at the CSC who are working with us. So for the single partners here, I would imagine at the moment you are not showing up here because you are one of the collaboration partners, but without a subcontract for money. I'm right there, huh? Yeah. Inna?
Was it a question?
That was a question. You are one of the sub partners, and I know that we got the letter of collaboration.
Right.
But we didn't do a subcontract. So if you would like to have your role also more described, because I know that Melissa came also back to me 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, and she said, "Oh, I will switch to another position, but what can we do for PresQT to reach out to the bigger community?" So maybe this could be something for describing, additional roles here. And
Sandra, that's a good idea. And I also talked to Melissa about that at the CoData workshop. Mm-hmm. And she's in the process of identifying someone to pass the baton to at Midwest Big Data Hub.
I think this was Inna. Am I wrong?
So the Midwest Big Data Hub is now sort of in transition.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it will take a while. Like the leadership, so the main PI remains the same. It's Bill Grob from University of Illinois. But because the main funding is ending and we're waiting for renewal of the new funding, and there was a submission of a new proposal, and the NSF asked for some changes in the structure and how the hub operates. So I don't know how that affects all the previous collaborations and partnerships. I think there has to be some continuity because the hub already committed to some collaboration, but and I was interested in getting involved with this project. But what does that mean, and who will be the main person making decisions? Sort of on the higher level. I don't know yet.
Perfect. But you could be our liaison for the time being, correct?
Right. Yeah. So for the time being, I'm happy to contribute and do like if you need connections to the hub or to some of our partners, I can do that.
Great.
Fantastic. Yeah. The other thing we could talk about would be outreach to when you have a workshop again. So last year there was a workshop together with NDES, which was a great opportunity to talk about PresQT. That was exactly before the implementation effort started. So to have chances like that to present PresQT, things like that would be fantastic. So Nathan, you will find also your role. Hub Zero project partner, technical project lead. Assigns tasks and coordinates efforts of project partner development team towards assigned milestones. Are you happy with that? If you are talking, you are muted.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks good. I don't know if who owns the docs on this, but I should have sent a request to have at least read access to these. under my Gmail account, because I think maybe it's on my Indenium Purdue account's the one that keeps getting sent to, but.
Okay, I'm gonna send you a notice to your Gmail, but it should be all public, so we'll open that up.
Well, the roles are not public. You know, I couldn't access it from any of my email accounts, so I don't know.
I can see it on
So
the.
let me share it directly. So.
Oh, it's limited to, I think, Notre Dame and then some people.
I think I just changed that.
I just changed
And
it.
Nathan?
So public on the web. I just put it public on the web now. And done. And if you try it again.
Cool. Yeah.
So this is only to make clearer, because we all had I think our ideas were what we are responsible for. So it was good maybe to figure out who is the contact for which task and who does which decision. And it's an open project. It's not like that you can, contribute to anything because it's not in your role. It's just only to make clearer what part is really crucial to your role. So Nathan, if you see something you would like to add, just add it in your role. The only thing you cannot do, you cannot add yourself as a PI.
It's okay. I don't think that's something I'd want to do.
No, and and I'm happy if you add yourself. So we try to make it clearer for everyone, because I think there were a couple of discussions, and we just want to be everyone, knowing whom to contact, whom to talk to, and what are the responsibilities. So that. It sounds like a little bit after 9 months of the project that it might be a little bit late. I don't think that it's too late. We started with everything, and then we realized, maybe not everyone knows what they want to do, need to do, what we promised in the proposal. So I think this is contributing to clarify a couple of things. Any questions? Okay, then I would give to Rick.
Yeah, so if you can relinquish sharing there, I can take control.
Oh yes, that's true. Sorry.
You're all good. Okay, so let me get to the right screen. Okay, so this is, at first glance, a lot of stuff happening in the screen here. But this is an attempt to provide a workflow example of how kind of technical decisions would be made kind of in collaboration with various partners, proposing new tools, testing, working through implementation, just figuring out how we would coordinate all of those various activities, because we have so many different partners and subcontractors on the grant, both funded and unfunded, right? So this is organized into a few different streams. For one, the very top, so don't worry about not being able to read the text for a moment, but the very top is looking at product definition, feature definition, things like that, use cases, and then going down into, okay, what kind of technology should we be using, whether it be creating something new, integrating an existing tool, integrating two tools together, systems, etc. Then kind of formal specifications, project plans, and then the actual implementation testing is down here. So then let me zoom in really quick here. There we go. So if you look at the top, there's then these various swim lanes, where one thing to kind of point out first is we have PI's product owner on the left here. Sandra is one of these PIs, but she also is represented in this tech lead swim lane. So it is assumed that Sandra would be providing use cases over here, as well as working within this tech lead role here. So we have PI's product owner, community partners, consultants, testing partners, QA specialist role that still needs to be filled. Project managers, that's represents Miranda Van Neville here at Notre Dame. CRC team lead, that's Marcus here at Notre Dame. Then the development team, and this is just tagged ND as it comprises both Center for Research Computing, CRC, and the library here at Notre Dame. And then there is, at the moment, there's 2 columns to kind of represent the various partners, since the makeup of each partner team is different, expected, and the actual lead is a little bit different. If you refer back to the roles spreadsheet, we tried to match that pretty close to what we at least had in the grant narrative, but there's lots of different flavors of, some person is more of a director, one person is more of a manager in the middle, and one person is more of a team lead. So it's really meant to be kind of whoever is the primary liaison or coordinator of activity at the various partners. And then the associated development team. So going through this, so the idea here is that PIs, the 4 of us, we engage with the community partners, define a use case, and then the product definition happens after that. And then the product definition, Sandra is the primary owner of that, with other PIs contributing to that. And then after that comes the technical architecture. And then what's envisioned there, and this is somewhat in progress, of course, already, is that depending on whatever the goal of a particular use case is, then that turns into some kind of technical architecture. And then some partner owns the task of fleshing out, perhaps likely in collaboration with another partner. But for example, right now at Notre Dame, there's work on building integration between 2 repository or active research spaces, copying data between those 2. And we're looking at the OSF to our institutional repository right now, but it's envisioned as being able to do any kind of pairing that's pre-configured. So it could be OSF to Hub0 or Hub0 to an IR, etc. So then based on kind of, okay, we have this feature that needs to be done. Let's evaluate what the technical needs are for that. Make technical recommendations. So this is the CRC, excuse me. That's why I was muted for most of the time earlier. So the CRC team, generating technical recommendations, especially at the feature level. And then it would be assumed that another team owning kind of major component or service would operate in a similar manner. So one of the reasons we wanted to establish this now is we're coming up on the time in July when a lot of implementation partners are going to be coming online. So we really wanted to have this figured out before then. In some respects, we've been kind of working out the kinks just locally here at Notre Dame to date. So then kind of based on those technical recommendations, that feeds into Sandra's swim lane here as the tech lead, selecting, evaluating the technology, also advising from the PIs as well as community partners on that, but kind of feeding in here. And then kind of based on the technology that is selected, evaluated, that then feeds into formalizing technical specifications. Again, Sandra being the primary owner of those, but getting advice, guidance from others. One of the reasons it says formalize here for a partner implementation team lead is that for systems like Hub0, for example, where you will need to do some implementation within your own tools, it's assumed you would be formalizing related technical specifications there. So that's the reason for the language difference. So you notice that everything kind of feeds in from the left to right, and then to the middle, feeding on down through each swim lane here, through each horizontal lane here. And then once the technical specifications are formalized, you can't see, this is the one thing that I think somehow if it can be tweaked to get the swim lane titles showing up as you're scrolling. But the project manager, so reviewing document timelines. In here, I didn't speak to the QA specialist yet. So the QA specialist defining use cases, test plans for those, formalizing test plans in this case. Folks like Marcus, the team lead in the CRC, assisting in documenting timelines, managing milestones. It would be assumed that the comparable partner lead would be doing same kinds of things. And then going down into these pink boxes here, so then it's expected that Miranda, as the project manager, would be coordinating with the various project managers and leads on the various milestones and tasks that would be laid out. The local leads would be assigning, coordinating tasks, then the development teams would be executing. And then once that is producing something, then that goes over into the testing phase. And right here, that's why this testing partner. So there's quite a few partners that are listed, especially as unfunded on the grant, that are listed as testing partners. So this is where a lot of those groups will come into play of installing and testing. But the QA specialist is meant to be the lead coordinating those activities. And then based on feedback that comes back, then that feeds back to the appropriate technical team that may be working on that. So this is all meant to be a giant feedback loop. And really it's also assumed that we may have many of these things happening in parallel. So as one particular feature or system integration or service is being developed, integrated, that these other things are happening in tandem.
Well, you might remember that we had in the timeline officially in the project, in the proposal, that it was all very, for the proposal distinctive, like, 3 months only on this, 3 months only on this, 3 months on the next service for quality assurance, and 3 months only on testing. We will interweave this different actions with each other because it was clearer for the proposal to make this real distinguishment between, we start with this, and at the beginning, yes, we start with one service, and we realize, we can start with two, because, for example, to download or to access data in one of the repositories or HubZero or OSF, we need that for all the different web services. We always need to access data. So therefore, it's clear there are some basic web services we need for everything. And then we focus, for example, on fixity, or we focus because we have seen, enhancing metadata would be a good step now also in combination with fixity. So as Rick already said, that it's a big loop and a couple of phases will overlap with each other, especially since we have the different partners. And this is so Nathan, for example, on HubZero, we asked them if they could start already a little bit earlier than July. So he's already in the first also, development phase, even so officially it would be in July. And so we could, for example, talk about if maybe testing partners who could be interested from July or August, whether you could reach out to them and that we can already show them just how we plan it at the moment or what the role could be. And we hope to have soon a QA specialist, the name also, who's leading the whole testing effort. So that is the idea here.
Yeah, and kind of going back to the QA specialist, that's something that we are interested in talking with the various partners to see if there may be someone that fits that particular role, or if we would look to fill that as potentially as a consultant or something of that nature. Since the person we had in mind at Notre Dame departed for another position, then there isn't someone that is necessarily a perfect fit. We could continue to look to see if we could free up time for someone to fill that, but we also wanted to reach out to partners as well to see if there would be someone. And we have some guesses, but I think we want to reach out to the various partners first before assuming there. But if you do have someone, definitely please feel free to speak up, and we can try to coordinate after the call.
Oh yeah, definitely. So Nathan, Inna, you have maybe someone who would fit as a quality assurance specialist for this project?
Oh.
And that's okay. And that's okay.
I wanted to say we have the same problem. After the one person we have seen there just went away.
I mean, are you looking, well, is it a paid position, or are you looking for volunteer contributions?
Well, it's
would be
semi-paid. Yes.
It would be paid.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I think it's equivalent to about what, a 30 or 40% full-time.
I'll
That
check.
sound right?
It's more like 70, but I'll double check. We should put it in the newsletter, Sandra. You're mute.
You're muted.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry. That's the newsletter. I have half of it ready. I should just after this call directly finish it, send it around that we get it out. Yeah.
And the actual there's an actual dollar amount, I should say that. So like depending however it would match with various salaries, etc. That's what we have.
So maybe I would write really only in the newsletter that it's paid, and that we will talk about how it's paid when people contact us.
Right, because I wonder, like, if it's a percent of someone's effort. From the institutional perspective, like, I don't really know how it works. I understand that hourly people can work for other institutions, but yeah,
Where it's currently at 50% rate, year
Okay.
one, year two.
Okay.
And if the new person had a salary higher or lower than the person against which we originally budgeted, we would just adjust for their reality by either more dollars or less hours in concert with our program officer at IMLS, but we could make the change. So it would be about half position. And since we haven't spent it this year, maybe a little money's left over.
Right.
So we could up the percentage for next year since we didn't spend it down this year. I think this goes, Miranda, through June 30 and then we fly. Yeah, I'll double check.
I wouldn't want to say yes
Yeah,
for
me
sure
neither.
because I have the other one in my head too.
Yeah, so that's the primary piece that needs to be filled still with our community team here.
Yes, and also especially for outreach partners, like with you, for example, if you see something where you say, oh yeah, I want, this extra column, and I see what I could do, or we just develop it together.
Right.
Yeah, so that was the goal. That because we realized at the beginning of the year that it was not always clear, and we got the questions also from partners like, should we do already something or not? So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so within the agenda, I did add the link to this particular version of the diagram just now. So there's both a link to this PDF version as well as where it was generated in Lucenchart here. And I don't remember if this is actually, if anyone has the link, I'll need to confirm whether it's editable or not.
But we do need to get those posted on OSF and Project Resources. I think Miranda's got them linked up now through the minutes.
Okay.
Does it show where you currently are, or is it in some separate place?
That is in the milestones area. in the Gantt chart and the
But it's
timeline.
not part of this, right?
No,
Okay.
this is just roles and communication flow.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, so probably more useful to grab a link to the PDF and then drill down yourself so you'll be able to see it on your screen. So that I made an attempt as I was the final editor of this to make it more compact, but at the same time it ended up being too compressed. So then I pushed out a little bit more so that it would be easier to follow the flow and also make it easier to make the flow a little bit more elegant in terms of how it goes from both horizontal and vertical swim lanes, right? So that's the reason for the size. But there is a lot going on, but the hope is that at whatever phase you're in, it then makes it clear on how we coordinate and who you refer back to, who you get feedback from, etc. But this is still able to be tweaked if you have ideas to improve it.
Well, I think it might be helpful to have either some legend or, you know, the color coding that you have, that these are some categories, right?
Right.
So like there's green, there's teal, blue, orange, and pink. So that you don't have to always, you know, go back somewhere and figure out what they are.
Sure. That's a good idea. Any questions on the flow itself?
Seems, well, no, I think it's clear. Yeah, like the arrows you have, yeah, some of them are one direction, some of them are both.
Right.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay, good. This was maybe third or fourth version of the original diagram. So Nathan, did you have any questions since you represent one of these swim lanes especially?
I would say that the I was noticing the same thing too about the color coding. That'd be nice to have somewhere where it's easily seen. But backing up a little bit to the quality assurance, does that have to go through Notre Dame's payroll? Is it actually like a Notre Dame position, or is it something which is attached to this project's funding that can be contracted out?
Contracted out.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it was originally written in as a Notre Dame position, but it's not. This doesn't have to stay that way.
That was exactly our problem, that the one person who would have been idle for the position and this project, he had to leave before this project was finished. He wanted to leave.
I don't know.
I think we lost you, Nathan. I heard only, I don't know. So yeah, I'm not sure. Nathan, did you want to say something additionally, or? I don't hear you.
Yeah, he did type in the chat.
Oh yeah, I see it. Okay, sorry.
I don't know if you can actually see that I have it open in my screen or not.
I opened it also in my screen. Yeah.
The short answer, Nathan, is if you have someone, they could be part of Notre Dame, any of the cost share partners, or a third-party contractor. We just need to know who and when in order to do the fund reallocation.
Right, but certainly we would like to move quickly so that we don't get too far along within the grant.
So if you have someone in mind, let Sandra know.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I will
So maybe type your answer.
stop sharing this moment here.
So I have one more question.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the milestones now that Natalie shared, and they are also color coded. Are they color coded in the same way?
No.
They
No.
don't seem to be. Okay.
They're random.
Sorry.
But I thought, oh, infrastructure, so it's green. Maybe it has to do with no. Okay.
Yeah, that was really, and the diagram was what I was trying to pick that was aesthetically pleasing.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want the non-color coded version, just hit the ones in GitHub. ndlib/presqt/milestones, and then you can see them with no color coding.
Okay. No, it's yeah. I was just wondering. That's fine.
Okay, so shall we move on?
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
So I think Sandra, you have the next
Exactly. So
bit of the agenda here.
yes. So my question would be then, what are the roles and contribution we make to the project, and so yeah, Inna and Nathan. So I think that is one of the discussions. I think for Nathan it's a little bit clearer, and he probably can see what his head is. For Inna, that is still a discussion. We could talk about different things. Happy about any suggestion also, if you have ideas. So one of the things I would see really is outreach. That would be fantastic. So if you have events, that there could be maybe a PresQT talk or something. And the other one is really to recruit maybe testing partners. That would be very helpful.
So are you looking for partners like early at the project or later? What kind of testing are you looking for?
So testing really when the first services are available. So I would say testing partners from the second half of this year, maybe starting after the summer break, July, August, September. I don't think that we need testing partners yet. If somebody is, also keen on maybe on defining tests and deliver it for the product they are working on, or they're using, or repositories they're using, that's of course fully appreciated, and that would be very cool. But yeah, at the moment I would see it's easier to reach out and say, oh, if there is something to test,
right,
and that we could show also screenshots or things like that, that people get an impression what's going on.
and that would be libraries or repositories within universities, right?
Or Sciencegate providers like HubZero, or
Okay.
people who are using the open science framework, or that was the idea, that it's on the one hand side in libraries, really data curators, as you said, but on the other hand also Sciencegate, which are used from several communities, like the NDS dashboard, because then we have already a bigger community using a software product, and that might be easier also to get them test partners.
Okay. It would just help me to think within the context of the hub, people who
Absolutely.
are part of the network.
Yeah, if they want to move stuff between Hub Zero, their institutional repository, and OSF, for example, that's a valid test use case. Or if they want to move stuff between Hub Zero and OSF, like consume something on OSF into their hub space.
Do you plan to write these things up? Like what could be a valid use case, or?
Yes.
Because descriptions like this would be really helpful.
I
Yes,
will
yes.
paste the use case section into the chat. And the
Uh-huh.
good news is you can add use cases. So if you think of a use case that would be particularly appealing to a Science Gateways community member or to a hub user, that is different than the use cases you see, it's okay. We can stack more use cases on top and test for the ones that we have the most traction around.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the URL to our use case document, do I find it directly? Otherwise, so we put it also in GitHub. That you can
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And also in theory, we're looking to integrate at the system level where we can, but of course, how things actually are in reality at various different organizations, institutions can be different. So that's another big reason we want to test and then kind of expand the support for what we would say if this supports Fedora Commons or something like that. We want to be able to back up that what we claim. So we don't want to reach too far in terms of what we say is the level of support.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, that makes sense.
Say, of course, Rick, you are totally right. It would be fantastic if people want to develop without getting any money from us. It's an open source project, so they can contribute in any way, but yeah, we are a little bit careful to ask for that yet.
But yes, but talking about just the one use case, for example, with the copying from one repository to another, is envisioned that there is kind of a pre-configured pairing of source and destination. And then in order to enable that, there has to be some kind of way you map the data and the metadata from source to destination, right? But beyond just the mechanics of doing the actual copy of things. So that's a big part of what we've expected so far in terms of thinking about the configuration. So that would be an example. If you have a new pairing you'd like to add, then we could work with you to try to see if we could make it happen.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So after your question, I'm aware of that we might have maybe to sort our user stories so in a way that people directly can see the pairings, maybe in the title of the documents which we have, because then they can have a look whether, oh, I'm interested in Hub Zero, I'm interested in OSF, so that we maybe put it directly. At the moment, we have user stories under user stories, I think.
Right.
You can make it nicer. Honestly, that's good. This feedback is good because for us, it's also kind of one of the novel concepts to do a project like this in this open way and with so many partners, with so many calls, and yeah. So yeah, definitely we could, name it so that people look in the documents, and we might even then duplicate documents because one user story might fit to Hub Zero and OSF, but might also fit to OSF and Fedora. So it could be that people look really for a product because they're interested in the product, but other people are just interested, what does the user story look like? So yeah, that is something maybe Natalie, Rick, we can discuss later how to show that people find more easily maybe the user stories.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, yay. Yeah, I think I have a the actual Hub Zero VM I'm using to develop with here. I think is competing with my microphone. But anyway, yeah, maybe like a spreadsheet matrix that maps the different partners and stuff with the different user stories, and like maybe that way we can see the pairings that. Because I don't think all of us are going to implement every feature, right?
No, exactly.
Yeah, so something that would be very visual might help with that too. And here I am waving my hands in the air, and I realize that there's no video. So I'm like, wave. Just imagine me like gesticulating my hands, waving in the air to try and explain things better with yeah.
We're totally with you.
So yeah, that I agree. That sounds like a great idea.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. We are working on making really also the documentation a little bit more obvious. I know there's a lot of things going on in OSF in the PresQT space with all the different documents. So we are still figuring out that it's also easier to find exactly the information you search for at that moment. Because you can find also PresQT presentations if, for example, you are interested maybe to have 1, 2, or more slides for something to show to colleagues just that they get an impression. Or, so material for partners who can distribute it also is there, but we should also make it probably more obvious that you can have maybe something like 3 slides or 2 slides where you can say, oh, this is PresQT, and are you interested? We are partnering, and yeah. So these things are all things we need to work on in a way that you find it. So, yes. So let me go to the next question then in our agenda. So if you know whether you have more than one head, maybe like outreach and finding testing partners, or Nathan for you, you know, being the lead, the technical lead for PresQT on Hub Zero's side, but also working on yourself also on implementation, as far as I understand, because you are not only the lead but also working yourself on the implementation, and you cannot, or you can ask or work with colleagues, but you are also the main implementation partner.
Sorry, I was typing something in the chat. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So I think is something missing in the roles you would, and you would like to see that we should mention, like on responsibilities.
In the roles as defined in the spreadsheet shown in the first part of the meeting?
Yes. So as team lead, you probably see your 2 hats, team lead and implementation partner, I guess. Because
yeah, I pretty much am right now, at least, am the Hub Zero effort at the moment. So there's not really anyone I can assign tasks to other than myself.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know. I got it.
No, it looks good to me. I mean, it makes sense. And then you have Mike's role on here. That makes sense too. So
okay.
yeah.
Cool. That is great. Yeah, and as we talked about, we will define in collaboration with you what the role is of
Was there anything specific in the proposal that the hub was supposed to do, or because I know the collaboration letters are usually very standard.
With IMLS, they are not standard. It's not like NSF.
Ah, okay.
So NSF, you always have the same text.
Right.
IMLS, no, what we have put in, but I can look it also up again, but this was really just the promise to reach out and talk about PresQT and bring making partners aware of that this project exists.
Okay.
So there's no further promises like, oh no, you promise that you will develop the whole solution for free. No. So that was it was about outreach and community engagement, and community engagement was not further defined than I think like giving presentation or adding it to presentations, and that's totally cool. You know, there was also not like, oh, you have to do 5 a year or something. There were no.
Okay. Well, yeah. So we can develop it later.
Yeah.
To
So there was no
more
quantitative
specific things.
measure. It was more qualitative. That you know, you talk about it, and yeah, so these things. Yes. So when there are there questions? So the next one would be so cost share partner. Yes, Nathan, that's you. to make work efforts definition and alignments around development task and project alignment. So if you need, yeah, let's say more definitions or different definitions, we could work on this together, if that makes sense.
Okay. When it comes to the financial side of it, that's probably more Nate Snodgrass's role than mine, though.
Yeah, and I think this is also really maybe that we bring probably the other Nathan in contact with the financial lead at ND, because that is writing invoices and nothing. That is only how to figure out at the beginning how every partner does it, and you probably just have to say, yeah, I worked on PresQT.
Yeah, as far as I know, that's as far as like time reporting and stuff goes. That's all I have to do, and
yeah.
I'm not sure if they went by hours or by percent. I'll have to ask him about that. But yeah, he's the one as far as that, you know, holds the beans to count as well as the counter and the burn rate and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. Okay. So we have used up our time already, which is also a good sign because it was a very active session. So I would say with the product plan, we talk about the next community call, because that would be now a little bit too tight to just talk 5 minutes about it, and it wouldn't give us any, you know, chance to discuss anything. Yeah, any further questions, comments?
I have a couple real quick. Are there any like birds of a feather type breakouts? Like again, like I'm not sure that everybody is equally interested in all of the 3 lines of activity. Are there any? I know this is a very small gathering at the moment, but would it be productive to say have like a keyword like breakout, like, or a fixity breakout, or again, do you want to do this so it rotates through those 3 different topics? Like today is maybe like, I don't know, hypothetically fixity, and next time we'll talk about keyword, or and so on, or.
Yeah, definitely. We also inviting partners for talks. We are thinking about this. We delayed it after this because we thought that with the roles and how we define a little bit the processes at the moment, important to get it out. But yeah, it's a small gathering at the moment. So, but people had the chance really to participate, and now it's something we should put in the newsletter that will go out, that people can have a look again and then maybe have questions. So, but absolutely, we want to have different topics and also presentations from partners. So not that I mind talking, obviously, but I like also other people talking.
Yeah, that the matrix of I think that's been kind of I guess a frustration on the external side of it is I know that we have a collection of these user stories, but they're not easily indexed as far as mapping capability to the user story. If we could break those down into smaller quanta, like just like not like a document that has like 4 or 5 user stories, but like just like one user story. And so like in that matrix, the left-hand column is like stories, right? And has a brief title of it as well as a link to the actual full text. And then, you know, the subsequent columns are, you know, Hub 0, you know, CRC, blah, 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 right?
Yes, I like also the idea that we have that somebody can refer to a topic, but also to involved systems. So as I said at the beginning, like it would be nice to be able to jump, for example, to the user stories with Sub-Zero.
Right. Also, too, I know that we've discussed in private chats about like sort of like levels of opt-in or compliance. That may be something else to add there too. Like, you know, this user story, and again, maybe this is another thing that could be color coded where it's easier to see the 3 different lines of activity. That this user story is like if you're going to do fixity, this user story has to be implemented.
Yeah.
And, you know, the next user story is sort of like an optional one and so on. But something along that line. So it's something that you can see as like one sort of gestalt or whatever picture of the whole thing.
Absolutely, because I think what we also talked about, like that there is access to, let's say, files or to a whole bundle of files. We need that for all different use cases we have. We just have to have the possibility to access files in the different systems.
Right. So maybe again, like there's a sort of implied 4th category, fixity, keyword, quality, and maybe like, I don't know, infrastructure or data or something. I'm not sure what you'd call that, but.
And that's the same as you said, yeah. And also with authentication, that is not dependent on one. It's like, so we should have maybe something like generic user stories, which are always necessary.
Right.
And then the different ones. But also the generic ones is something where you can select for, can have a look, okay, this is for these systems, and they do that. So that,
yeah.
Yeah.
So Nathan, you want to have like an overview of story and then what kind of end target being mapped out in order to understand what feature applies, for instance, to Hub 0, so that you are aware of these feature being in development. Did I understand?
Yeah, and also I think that going back to the birds of a feather, I think you know, I can sort of populate my column of that matrix for the things that we're interested in developing on, but I would be interested to see maybe what Yale is also interested in implementing on, because it may turn out that we have maybe a couple of specific use cases that are in common that maybe no one else has really considered, or maybe a couple of use cases that we're not doing for a reason, you know, whatever it might be. But it would be it'd be a good way of showing a picture of the community's interest as a whole, as well as like I don't know. I think there's a lot we could do with something like that. Maybe even like the columns. It's not for us. Like it's not so much like an X or a yes or a no. Like we're going to implement this or not. Maybe it could even be something as far as like tracking like how much effort we've invested into it. So for those features that Hub 0, for instance, because I'm speaking from my position here, obviously, but for those that the features being sort of a direct one-to-one mapping or near one-to-one mapping to the user stories, for those aspects that we're interested in implementing, maybe I'm putting in percentages of what I estimate done or some kind of qualitative label, whatever it might be. But it would be interesting to be a whole picture of the whole development effort across all of us at any given point in time.
Right, because we don't have that yet. The only artifacts we have of tracking that is like a design document, where we like document user stories and user cases and then user stories according to each of the web services. And then we have the roadmap, but which are totally separate documents. And I like your idea to have one central document where everybody has the same view on, and people can also interact with. I think that's a very good idea. I think we can start with that immediately because I'm writing this week to get started again, the user stories to get us back on track, and then we can talk about how we visualize that, and definitely need help on that. So I think Nathan, being in contact with you and being in touch with you, leading that effort together, I think we can create some kind of template, and we can start then putting in those variables, what you think are valuable for you to track, and then we can translate it over to other target systems.
Yeah, let's do that. Although I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. Actually, it wasn't my initial idea. It was Inno's idea, I think. So the seed of the idea was her. So I want to point that.
Yeah, she will be happy that finally
You should
something
totally
is
take
there.
credit.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So further comments?
Sandra, I have one other real quick question procedurally. This API sort of skeleton that I was working on, and you said mentioning putting it in the GitHub. Where in GitHub should I put that? Or Marcus, that applies to you too, I guess, as far as where organizationally that should go in that. Should there maybe like a GitHub? So look at the tree in here, like not requirements, but maybe requirements. I don't know. Where would that go at in there logically?
So
Can we go to GitHub? Let's take a look together. Let's take a look. So we have ndlib -presqt. I think that's the master branch.
So the PresQT issues, exactly.
I could either just make a garden variety issue and hook it to there.
I would say make an issue and assign it to Hub 0 then. We don't have Hub 0 as a label yet.
Yeah.
But we can create a label.
Okay.
So I would create a label directly now for you.
Yeah, we have certain branches besides the master branch, which we created.
So new label.
Yeah, and I have to warn you here. I am a fairly decent programmer, but I'm a horrible software engineer when it comes to managing code repositories and stuff. So I might need a little hand holding with some of that.
No worries.
Just honestly, that's totally fine. I can
Install a component in OSF and just throw it in there, and then we'll link it back to the GitHub from there.
Okay.
That's totally valid too.
So
Whatever.
it's fine with you. So it should.
So maybe if you want to directly purely interact with GitHub, then we can get together and figure something out how we structure the code repository.
Yeah, I'm okay not interacting directly with GitHub. It's just that we were talking about like I have like sort of like a document that's like sort of like thinking out loud about what our API endpoints would be specific on Hub 0. And Sandra mentioned on sharing that. I just was wondering where the logical place to share that would be. OSF, by the way, works fine for me, or if you think it's more appropriate for GitHub, that's fine too. Just
why I thought about GitHub was because there are tasks resulting out of the document, but it's totally fine if you share maybe the Hub 0, the document, the Google Doc for the moment under user stories in OSF.
Okay.
Let me. And
Yeah,
then,
there's a space.
then Marcus and I can create the GitHub issue.
Yeah.
Outstanding. I'll do that. And with that, I'm done. So I have no more questions.
Oh, Nathan, we are very grateful always for your participation.
Yes, thanks for your feedback. That's very helpful, especially with the story mapping to the end the target or to the target system. I think that's a great idea to make it more appealing to the community. And
Yeah, maybe we can get some more engagement then if they have a clear
Yes,
idea of what we're working on and how it impacts
there's
them.
so much links that's running around, and there's so much stuff our things we bring in from the development team to it. So I think having one unified view is very helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we're still meeting next Monday, right? And we'll go over the product plan, and maybe if we've gotten any start on a matrix, we can like try to just bring it up, even if it's not filled in, but just to see if like the layout formatting wise works or something like
Yes.
that. Maybe that,
Yeah,
does that seem reasonable?
I will get started.
Yeah.
I will create like a Google table thingy.
Yeah, it
That-
doesn't have to be completely fleshed out, but then we could talk on Monday if it
Right.
seems like it's kind of fitting.
I will share this document with you, Nathan, and then we can work together on it.
I look forward to it.
Cool. Thanks.
And Nathan, I will come back to you if you want to talk about the state of how it goes at the moment with the web services, if you would like to.
I honestly, I don't have much to report. I had to actually put another disk in to hold the VM I was working on. That's what I was working on through a meeting here. But I don't know, again, back to the data problem that we're running into. Like we have certain hubs, like Per, for instance, that has lots of interesting publications in it. Obviously, I don't want to copy over the actual data itself. But actually populating our publications database has been, there's not an easy like way, for instance, to clone a hub, which is a little surprising to me. But so yeah, I'm probably gonna end up spending at least as much time on putting in some target publications to play with, as I am actually going to do the API development. The API development actually isn't that hard, but standing up something that's going to be accessible yet secure and actually have data in it, that's actually the more challenging part of that.
Okay, so yeah, no pressure at all. So we just talk next Monday again.
Right. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. Again, the API stuff isn't the problem. I'm just not sure about where I can easily get the data into it without actually having to write a lot of scripts to pull data in from somewhere else. I talked with some other people here, and they said, well, maybe you can like do a database dump or this or that, but all that seems very, again, not good on my side. But
so maybe via PresQT you found also a niche. What HubZero should support additional.
yeah, well, we have this one science place thing that we're sort of evolving to, and I'm not sure. I mean, that's kind of an offline discussion, but I'm not sure if that's going to obviate the need for replication or if that will actually amplify the need for replication. But I guess it could go either way on that one. I'll have to talk with some people about that. But yeah, we might have actually identified a need. I'm surprised that we don't have an easy to do API about like cloning a feature or cloning a data object from one hub to another.
Okay.
So, lesson learned.
Yeah, that's one of the features OSF has that makes it so easy for labs to use it.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this, but Jeff Spies is actually on one of our biggest hubs, NanoHub. He's actually on the external advisory board for NanoHub as well.
Yeah.
And I just found that out myself. I was like, oh, it's a small world sometimes.
Yeah. Cloning, that would be Jeff.
Okay.
All right.
Any further comments?
I think we're good. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank
Thank
you
you all.
all.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.